Money FM 89.3, best of breakfast.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, hello and welcome to Money FM 89.3's Post Budget Roundtable 2025. We're delighted to have all of you here with us today. We're also broadcasting live on all of our social media platforms, so we want to give a shout out to those joining us virtually as well. Thank you for joining us here at Asia Square. My name is Audrey Seek. I'm a co-host of The Breakfast Show on Money FM Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. And it is my honor to be emceeing this event today. While we're here, we're going to be unpacking this year's budget, and the roundtable theme today is SG60 and Beyond Budget 2025. And we're also hoping to address some of the frequently asked questions that have come up in most recent weeks. So if you're here at Asia Square, you should see a QR code right behind you or right next to you, and that would lead you to a Pigeonhole page. Now that's the platform you're going to use to ask your questions for the panel. And if you're joining us virtually, please feel free to ask your questions and write them in the comments below. We'd love to have all of your questions answered today. And also bonus, if you ask a question, you also stand to win a prize from us today. So now is as good of a time as any. And we also have an esteemed panel of guests joining us for today's panel. So if you allow me, I'm going to be introducing everybody today before we get started. All right, well, we start with a very familiar face, Miss Indranee Rajah. Now, you may know Miss Indranee as the Minister in the Prime Minister's office. Yes, Second Minister for Finance and Second Minister for National Development. Please welcome Miss Indranee.
Hi, everyone.
We also have Shawn Huang, who's Senior Parliamentary Secretary for Education and Finance. And since 2020, he has been the Member of Parliament representing the Jurong Spring Division of Jurong GRC. Shawn, thanks for being here.
Hi, everyone.
And joining in as well is Yuit, who is the president of ASME, or the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, which is all about empowering our local SMEs for growth and success. Yuit wears many hats. He's also a business owner, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing that I believe he's just welcomed his 6th child last month on Valentine's Day. So thank you for carving out the time to be here with us today. And up next, we have Trisha Suresh. She's head of public policy in Southeast Asia for LinkedIn. Now, in her role, she works closely with governments and economic institutions to help create opportunities for every member of the global workforce. Trisha, we're so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
And last but not least, to wrap up the panel, we have Xander Ong. He's the CEO of the Center for Fathering. And what they do is inspire and equip men to be the involved fathers and father figures their families need. And of course, to support the moms as well. So give it up for Xander.
Hi, everyone.
And we need a moderator today to host and navigate us through the panel discussion. And it is none other than my fellow breakfast co-host, Ryan Huang. He's a senior presenter producer at Money FM and assistant finance editor. So without further ado, Ryan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Welcome, everyone, to Money FM 89.3's Post-Budget 2025 Ministerial Roundtable. I'm Ryan Huang. So we've got a lot of feedback, a lot of reactions so far to budget. And the big question is, how ready is Singapore for what's to come, and what more do you need to keep an eye on? But before we get into all that, let's welcome Mr. Indranee Rajah as well as Senior Parliamentary Secretary Shawn Huang for their opening remarks.
Thanks very much for having us, and great to see all of you here. It's been some time since I've been back in the CBD area, and it just feels, the vibes here feel very familiar. But anyway, Budget 2025 is really meant to be an all-encompassing budget, taking into account short-term needs, medium-term needs, as well as longer-term future needs. And we put quite a lot of thought into this, so we hope that there's something for everyone. And of course, a centerpiece is families, because we want to encourage families in Singapore. So I hope that all of you do go through the budget and look and see what you can find there. Do look out for the support Go Where QR code so that you can figure out what you get under the budget. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for hosting this Money FM. It's great back to be in the Central Business District. As you know, Singapore being a global financial hub, we really need to be humming, buzzing, and continue to be relevant in this very disruptive and dynamic environment. We want our companies to continue to be innovative, going out there, being able to transform and be adaptable and agile. We want our workers to have the competence, the skills, reskill, and constantly being on the tip of the spear in terms of delivering capabilities that's relevant to the world. And none other, for government-wise, we want to make sure that we continuously develop and nurture a very competitive business ecosystem here in Singapore.
All right, thank you so much, Minister Indranee and SPS Shawn. So every year, we look forward to what the budget brings. And I think this year, many folks have a lot to cheer about, right? But it's not just about the vouchers, it's also taking steps to strengthen Singapore's social support system and the economy to make sure that nobody is left behind. And I think it's a good chance to start a bit of a warm-up question. What is one word you would use to describe Budget 2025, and what is your favorite part about budget? And I'm going to start first with Xander.
Hi. One word to describe the budget for me is inclusive, because it covers many facets of society, and especially this year, supporting larger families. I think that's a huge thing. And what I like most about this budget is actually the mid-career training allowance. It's actually very attractive, even to me. People in our 40s can choose to jump on this training allowance and reskill themselves, for example, in AI, in various technologies, in order to be more productive going forward. And why I think it's attractive to many parents in this age is because, for example, you might want to jump on that after you come back from parental leave, maybe. Or you can choose to do that while your child is young, because nowadays many parents understand the need to prioritize being physically and emotionally present for your young children. That's why I think it's a very interesting scheme, especially if it covers maybe from 35 years of age. It can help stay-at-home mothers or fathers to actually return to work with new skills. So it's something that I think has great potential.
Very nice. Inclusive. Now, Tricia, what is the one word you use?
Thanks, Ryan. I think my word will be transformative. I really like the fact that the budget this year focuses so much, and I guess it builds on last year's budget and budgets before that, but it focuses so much on upskilling and reskilling and the importance of that. So for LinkedIn, we're seeing that the world of work is changing very rapidly. And with generative AI and its impacts, we expect that the world of work will continue to change more rapidly. So if I looked at a job that you would do in 2015 versus 2030, we expect that skills needed for that job, even if you haven't changed your job, would have changed by as much as 70%. So the pace of change is accelerating thanks to Gen AI. And it's important for us to continue to invest in our people, continually invest in upskilling, reskilling, and imbibe this culture of lifelong learning in the fabric of our society.
All right, transformative. And let's turn to Yuit now. You wear many hats. What would be one word you would use?
The word I would use is exciting. And the reason is the last few years has been very turbulent in general for the small and medium enterprises. And it's very important in the coming years with the challenges in terms of trade, in terms of the economic headwinds, as well as technology, that SMEs have the access to the support and the site to move forward. And in this term, this budget, what you can see is really the focus around lining up the needs of the enterprises in skills and tying that up with the skills direction. Secondly, focusing a little more on the needs of the SMEs on the cash flow part, and also giving access to resources for SMEs in areas like the Enterprise Compute Initiative and other programs that are coming downstream.
Yeah, so lots for everyone. So you've got inclusive, transformative, exciting, and of course, this budget has been described as a budget for all Singaporeans. Shawn, how would you describe budget?
I would say that this particular budget is catalytic. It's catalytic in such a way that it enables and reinforces capabilities for enterprises to continuously think of transformation, to think of innovation, to think of delivering more revenues for growth, expanding to the region, and have the ambition to internationalize. And in specific, government has come in to further enhance One Tenderlight as well as the innovation programs, and that's something that government can be part of this the journey to further boost our enterprises here in Singapore.
All right, thank you, Shawn. Minister Indranee.
I think one word I would use is together. And why do I say that? Because although we've got all the different budget measures, right, you can see that underpinning the entire budget is a value that we support one another, we help one another, and we do things together. So just take the cost of living measures. That's really telling Singaporeans, we've got your back. You're not alone in this. Then you've got the philanthropy measures, right? Well, that's really calling on the corporates, do more for others who are in need. Then you have the business part, where government's putting in money to help SMEs, to help larger companies. So that whole idea of we're in this together. And that's what this budget is about.
All right, lots to get through for this budget, and broadly you'll be diving into three main areas: support for businesses and workers, support for families, and supporting growth sustainably. So in this increasingly uncertain world, I think many of us worry a bit more about how to stay relevant, how to compete, to survive, to thrive in order to build a better tomorrow. And Singapore has been pushing for skills upgrading as one of these ways to mitigate those concerns. And in this budget, it's no different. The various skills future enhancements will make upskilling easier for companies of all sizes, as well as for employees with particular needs. Plus, in response to feedback, we've got training allowances under the existing Skills Future Level Up program for mid-career Singaporeans, which will be extended beyond full-time courses. So this is where I'm going to throw you the question. We've got so many incentives on the table right now for folks to upskill. What sort of feedback have you received from the members under ASME, and how well do they balance their concerns when it comes to upskilling versus costs and time?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have been giving feedback on in terms of skilling is really about whether the skills are fitting in with the needs of the industry. And one thing we are really very happy with in this particular budget is really the fact that we are taking a top-up and additional access to capital in terms of training with the Skills Future Enterprise Credit. And not just that, the Skills Future Enterprise Credit is going to be designed as a wallet, which means that cash flow becomes something that is much more alleviated for SMEs that have a bit of challenge in putting up upfront cash for additional training for their staff. So the important thing if we talk about training is balancing that and linking it to industry needs. And that's something that we think on the industry side is very important. No point having skills and it's all just academic and it doesn't tie to the needs of the industry. So for us, we think that what's unique about this budget is empowering the businesses to tie it in with enterprise training, linking it with the needs of your people, and therefore allowing skills to be paired with experience. And we all know that when employers employ, they are looking at not just skill but also your portfolio. And having that tied together is a very critical part of upskilling and having a workforce that keeps progressing on.
Yeah, so it's very important to have that connection or match between skills and what's needed in the industry. And Tricia, you watch what is happening between companies as well as their journey to upskilling. What are you observing when it comes to how they are embracing skills upgrading and learning? How much is that gap between knowing that it's important and actually doing it, doing something about it and going on board to actually go on these courses and so on?
So let's start with the big picture. The world of work is changing very rapidly, and we see this on the LinkedIn platform every day. Globally today, more than 10% of workers who have been hired into roles are hired into roles that did not even exist in the year 2000. And we all know what we were doing in the year 2000. It wasn't that long ago. But these are roles like AI engineer, sustainability consultant, data scientist. These are jobs that did not even exist 25 years ago. And from the surveys that we've done of professionals, they're sensing this pace of change to be quite overwhelming. So from a job seeker's perspective, almost 2/3 of Singapore's professionals are feeling overwhelmed by this pace of change. And over half are seeking guidance to gain or understand the essential skills that are needed for their jobs. For businesses, about 50% of businesses that we surveyed struggle to find talent with soft skills. So soft skills are still very important for businesses today. And then 44% of businesses that we surveyed found it hard to find technical skills. So it's both the soft skills and technical skills that are still in demand and very much needed. So I think the Budget 2025 provides opportunities for companies to tap into the added support for workforce transformation that's so direly needed in this world of work that's constantly changing.
All right, I'm going to take this opportunity to ask the crowd, how many of you have used your Skills Future credits already? Okay, I think this speaks to this data point I have. Only about a quarter of eligible Singaporeans have used their one-off Skills Future credit top-up of $500 that is due to expire at the end of this year. So it really shows that not everyone has been on board looking at least or jumping on this bandwagon of upskilling. Xander, before taking on the job as CEO of Center of Fathering, you've had a lot of management experience in other companies. How do you feel about the measures? How much do they motivate folks to upgrade?
I think many companies struggle with the tension on working on urgent matters versus working on important matters or firefighting. And staff training and development is actually an important matter, right? For companies to be relevant, for staff to be relevant, to be progressively innovative in how we deliver value. That's what upskilling and upgrading is about. And I think it's actually the responsibility of management and leadership to ensure that the staff is on that innovative upskilling cycle consistently. Because the truth is this, most of us are always working on urgent stuff. Less time is spent on the training and development. Therefore then, if the company does not equip and develop the staff on areas that there are strengths and also interests that aligns with the company interest and direction, then the staff could likely be disengaged.
Yeah, there's always this ongoing tension between short-term needs, keeping the lights on, getting business in the door, and then long-term upgrading requirements. Shawn, based on what you've heard so far, how much does this echo the feedback and reactions you've received?
Yeah, actually, we've come a very long way in terms of SkillsFuture. I mean, just last year we celebrated the 10 years anniversary, and back then, if you remember, in 2014, we did not really have a culture or mindset that it's a lifelong learning that every year we need to find something to upgrade ourselves, gain new competencies, and it's been a long way. I mean, in terms of government-wise, we have actually doubled or even tripled the amount of investments that we have into SkillsFuture. In 2016, it was $500 million, and today it was slightly more than $1 billion. For the workforce-wise, we see a lot of encouraging numbers actually. Although, Ryan, you mentioned that the numbers may be still a little low, but actually we have an explosive growth. Just about 2 years ago in 2023 compared to 2024, there's close to about 37% increase in the number of people using their SkillsFuture credit. So I think we started on that. At first, when we first started SkillsFuture, there was a plethora of courses that were available. But back then, compared to 10 years today, I think SkillsFuture today is a lot more accessible in terms of online and offline platforms. It's a lot more affordable because there's a lot of grants, subsidies, companies coming in and funding that as well. And thirdly, I think the quality of SkillsFuture has really deepened in leaps and bounds, especially in collaboration with industry partners, in collaboration with IHLs, to really deepen those core skills that are relevant in industry today.
I just want to add to that. This year's budget actually does a further enhancement because one of the things that holds people back from using their SkillsFuture is actually time. Because they're in full-time employment, they can't take the time off. So this year's budget actually extends the SkillsFuture Level Up program to those who want to take part-time or take courses part-time.
That's right. So for those who are looking to go for part-time training, they can receive monthly allowances of $300. So that goes some ways to persuading them to go on this upskilling journey. And just building on what you said, Shawn, PM Lawrence Wong, in his budget speech, emphasized the importance of advancing Singapore's growth frontier to maintain competitiveness and improve the well-being of Singaporeans. What comes to your mind when we hear the phrase growth frontier? What should we be looking at more closely?
I think in terms of growth, industry will definitely be at the forefront on what the future holds and what are the value propositions that we need to bring forth to be relevant. And relevance is absolutely important. Companies need to constantly transform themselves to bring value. Workers need to reskill and gain more competencies. We need to be multidisciplinary. We need to build depth in what we are able to do. And all these things coming together is to really deliver, to be able to harness the opportunities that are given in the future economy. It's going to be a very competitive landscape out there. So in terms of business transformations and business models, government is coming in terms of the Productivity Solutions Grant. There is the Enterprise Development Grant. There's also the Enterprise Innovation schemes, and many more that you can see on ESG and EDB as well to boost and help uplift these enterprises. In terms of the workforce, SkillsFuture will continue to be a mainstay, and we continue to encourage workers to work together, especially with the NTUC company training committees as well. That's where industry work closely with IHLs together with union to then deliver capabilities and training that's immediately relevant to the workforce and to the company. And that actually reduces a lot of dead weight and overtraining or undertraining. You're really training to the specific role and for the future. You know, there are many other innovation stuff that we have put in. For example, more recently, we have topped up the National Productivity Fund. Being able to a financial center and a global hub, we must be able to continue to be able to attract national, multinational enterprises. Why? They bring a lot of value in terms of the ecosystem. They are able to seed capability, the downstream effects and businesses that are welded into the SMEs as well to build vibrancy and dynamism. They work closely with IHLs and able to co-develop these things. And once you're able to build a cluster and ecosystem of such, there's a lot of depth that have synergistic and competitive advantage that many other places may not have. And obviously, there are many other things. For example, more recently, there's the private credit growth fund that can be used in complement with the EIS and EDG funds to help local businesses and SMEs rethink about their cash flow, rethink about their regional ambitions, and also their global aspirations.
All right, so with an eye on the future, I think the next question is going to Tricia. When we are talking about growth, what are some of the top skills in demand these days? I think everyone's keen to find out what they need to be ready for in future. What are you seeing in terms of the demand for skills? What do we need, and how much of a talent crunch are we seeing?
So every year LinkedIn puts out a report. We call it the Jobs on the Rise report. These are roles that are coming up, the fastest growing roles that are coming up on our platform. For this year's Jobs on the Rise report for Singapore, some roles that have come up as fastest growing include the AI engineer, AI researcher, sustainability consultant, technical sales engineer, amongst many others. So we are seeing a lot of AI skills coming up as in demand, but then also green skills that are coming up in demand. And then from a perspective of employers, we're seeing that C-suite leaders also recognize the pivotal role that AI skills and AI tools play, and they've named it as one of their top business priorities. So I think what's critical is we not just invest in AI engineering skills, and not all of us will become an AI engineer, but all of us will have to have AI literacy skills, because our employers are going to need us to use these tools to be more productive in our roles, be more efficient in our jobs. So if I take big picture of in-demand jobs, or rather in-demand skills, will be AI engineering skills, but then also AI literacy skills. And then to your point, Ryan, on talent crunch, I want to reframe that. And instead of thinking about a talent crunch, what we continue to do at LinkedIn, and it's very similar to how Skills Future thinks about it as well, is that we want to encourage businesses and companies to take a skills-based approach to hiring. When we take a skills-based approach to hiring, we can expand talent pools significantly. And when I say skills-based approach, it means you would look for talent, or employers would look for talent from a perspective of skills they've gained, as opposed to whether or not they did that exact same job in their role before, or whether they graduated from a 4-year program for that role. So skills-based approach to hiring from LinkedIn's perspective can expand talent pools by up to 4 times in Singapore. So I would reframe that as maybe not as much of a talent crunch in some of these roles as we might expect if we encourage employers to take that skills-based approach to hiring.
All right, different way of approaching the talent issue. If you've just joined us, you're watching Money FM 89.3's Post Budget 2025 Ministerial Roundtable. I'm Ryan Huang alongside our esteemed panel. We are unpacking the most pressing issues facing Singaporeans and how much some of the latest budget measures impact us, plus what lies ahead for Singapore beyond SG60s. And you can also send in your questions to us on social media or Pigeonhole if you're here in the audience with us. And now we are moving on to the support for families. And Budget 2025 was not just about growing the economy, but also growing families and providing the necessary support. So in that vein, there's now a large families scheme to support families with 3 or more children. So another poll here, how many of us have at least 3 kids or are in a family with 3 siblings? Okay, so a lot of work to go on that front. So good news, there's now a range of measures for large families, which will get up to $16,000 in additional support for each third and subsequent child, ranging from CDA top-ups, MediSave grants, Life SG credits. Xander, I'm coming to you first. How significant is this move for you? How much does it incentivize folks to go from maybe 2 kids to 3 kids?
It takes a village to raise a child. So for a larger village, a family with more children, I think the support measure is welcome. Any support we can receive in raising our family is welcome. Whether you push people to have more children, it really depends on their experience within their marriage and how well supported the village is. And that's something we hope that workplaces will see themselves as also part of the village. I think incentives or support measures alone are just part of the conversation.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. It takes a village to raise a child, and it also takes a community to support parents. So when you think about that support from the workplace, what are you looking at in terms of policies or workplace flexibility? What do you think can help?
So the first part is certainly policies that minimally adhere to government guidelines or schemes like the parental leave scheme. For example, from April, we're going to have very generous parental leave scheme, 4 weeks for fathers, shared parental leave, I think up to 10 weeks. And these are measures that's out there to encourage families to raise their child in the very precious first year of the child's life. But unfortunately, the take-up rate has been quite low. So the question is why? Essentially, workplaces have to see themselves as being part of the village. It means culturally, how do we support young families? When your colleague gets married, what do you say to them? When they come to you, when your direct report comes to you, say, I'm expecting a child. What's your reaction? So we need to build a climate of trust where team members can really support one another in our family journey. You can also be caring for your aging parents. They also need to be supported. You're entering a marriage. It's also a challenging phase. You have your first child, your second child, your third child. Each child brings to a family a change in dynamics. How can workplaces come together to say, yes, we are part of a village. Let's be on this journey together.
Yeah, so we've been collecting questions in the lead up to this event, and one of the questions, Minister, was childcare leave days. They remain static regardless of the number of kids you have. So I think for most companies, they have 6 childcare leave days, but even if 1, 2, or 3 kids, it's still 6. Is there a way for this to be reviewed or looked at?
Okay, on the leave part, actually for unpaid or for infant care, right, when the child is age 2, it's actually 12 days per parent per year. So that's when they're younger and they need more care. Then for children who are age 7 and below, then it's 6 years per parent per year. And then for those above 7 years, it's 2 days per parent per year. So you can see that there is actually quite a bit of childcare leave, but I can understand why people would want more, especially when the children are growing up. For that, what I would say is this. We don't rule that out, we can look at it, but we've actually just made a very, very big step with the announcement at NDR, National Day Rally, last year, which will take effect this year, which is the new or the enhanced shared parental leave. We're going to have 10 weeks of government paid shared parental leave. We start this year on the 1st of April with 6 weeks, and the remaining 4 weeks will kick in next year, so that will bring it to a total of 10 weeks. And then when you add on the government paid paternity leave plus the government paid maternity leave, that's about 30 weeks in total. Why did we make this step? Because we got a lot of feedback from young parents that the time that they really need to bond with the child is when the child is just first born. And the first 18 months are the most important. We couldn't give 18 months of shared parental leave. When we were talking to the employers, there was this yelp of pain. So we had to modify it. But we thought that 10 weeks is quite a big step already. And we need to give the employers time to implement this. You've got to rework the IT systems. The shared parental leave is such that it's 5 weeks to the mum by default and 5 weeks to the dad by default. But they can allocate it amongst themselves. So can you just imagine, depending on how they allocate it, if they are working for different employers, it's already quite complex. If they're working in the same organization, that same organization would be down by 2 parents if they all take it at the same time. So the working out of it is something you need to give employers time to do and to build up the skill to be able to do it well. I can see Yuit nodding because for SMEs, they feel it the most. Especially if they're employing 2 people who happen to be husband and wife and have a kid, and then they decide to take all their SPL at the same time. then you have a problem. So for the childcare leave, I would say, we're not saying never, but let us implement the shared parental leave well first. Because if we don't implement it well, the employers are going to be scarred for life. And then after that, when we ask them to do additional childcare leave, then they're not going to be too keen.
All right, one step at a time. And you, of course, you're well positioned to talk to this issue. You wear the hat of President of ASME, representing SMEs. You also wear the hat of a dad of 6 kids. So how do you sit on this issue?
Yeah, now I was just listening to Min Indranee speak, and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to think like wearing both hats on which position, right? And I think that what Min said was very accurate in the sense that I think right now we are really moving towards a more supportive environment, and government supporting bigger large families and more people having kids. And I think we need some time for the whole system to kind of take it in. And as SMEs and businesses tweak their systems, it also takes time for them to adjust and to figure out what's the best way to take it in and support it. Now, in all my conversations with SME owners, they are all very supportive of larger families and people having more kids. And most of the time, it is really about how they kind of tie that in with the performance and tie it in with the business outcomes. So I think given time, this can continue to move, but I think it's all about giving the time for the whole ecosystem to kind of adjust.
So some adjustment needed. And Tricia, let's bring it into the conversation. Now, with all this help available, how much is it about people taking ownership of the issues and taking their own initiative, so to speak, to find a solution?
I feel like this ownership question is a complex one, Ryan. And I imagine some of our other panelists would also have inputs on that. But I think what I can say is this topic of childcare leave and potentially taking career breaks. What we're seeing from LinkedIn's perspective and based on some reports and surveys we've done is that there's still a stigma around women taking those career breaks. And we found that nearly 3 in 5 Singapore female professionals think that taking a career break will make them less attractive candidates to potential recruiters. So that could be one factor of it. Of course, it's a complex one. But I think for LinkedIn as a company, our vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. And in Singapore, what we try to do is also lean in additionally for women in particular who are looking to re-enter the workforce. So we've got partnerships with nonprofits like Mums at Work, Daughters of Tomorrow, SG Her Empowerment, She. And through these partnerships, what we hope to do is help women, well, actually parents really, but in particular women, who are looking to re-enter the workforce, better describe maybe a career break they've taken on their LinkedIn profile. How can you communicate the skills you've got from the time that you may have spent in your caregiving responsibilities? And then also connecting them with role models and mentors and networks. And I think all of this will help with reducing firstly the stigma and potentially adopting more of these programs and policies made available.
So can I just add something about that? Because I think Tricia's touched on an important point. This year's measures and the shared parental leave should not be viewed alone. You've got to see this in the context of the last few budgets. And if you look at the last few budgets, you'll see that what we've been doing, step by step, policy by policy, and measure by measure, is trying to nudge Singapore as a whole to be more family friendly. I used to be in private practice. I had a team, I had billing targets. But I would still encourage my team to take their leave because I thought that was very important for them mentally and in terms of their productivity. So companies need to be able to do that balance between productivity, getting the most out of your people, and your people at the same time being allowed to take their leave and being responsible to the company. So to create this ecosystem, we started off by enhancing the baby cash bonus to help with costs. We enhanced the child development account to help with healthcare and education costs as well as the early initial costs. We implemented flexible work arrangements. We put in place the shared parental leave. Then HDB also introduced the new classification framework to help with affordability of BTOs. And we're encouraging employers to come on board. Then of course now we've got the large family scheme. But all of this only works if Singapore as a society is supportive of families and employers create organizations that allow the parents, the women especially, to have children, take time off, come back in. Yeah, sure, you may lose a little bit of your promotion for that year or the bonus for that year, but the system should be such that you can make it back up once you get back on the train again. So that's a really important thing.
Yeah, so everyone has a part to play, and there are structural issues I suppose we can look at. And this is a question from a listener, right? Beyond financial help, maybe we can look at more structural changes, such as giving priority access to larger flats for families who want to grow to a larger size. What do you make of that suggestion?
Okay, so we do have quite a bit of priority already. In the last 2 years, I think, or was it last year's budget, we introduced priority for married couples as well as for couples with young children, because we wanted to make sure that they had a home to start with. Then recently, Minister Desmond announced the family care scheme. So if you want to live near your parents, or as a family you want to apply together, parents and children, to apply for 2 flats, because that gives you that mutual support. So we're giving quite a bit of priority already for families. I think the ask was priority for bigger flats for larger families. That's something you have to look at, but you've got to balance with the affordability part as well, and the accessibility, where to put these flats, etc. So that's something that we can look at for the future. But for right now, we've made quite a number of very progressive steps to support families.
All right, and one more question for you, Minister. So there is this question about incentives. We have incentive for 3rd child onwards. Why not focus on the 2nd child onwards? Because from 1 to 2, it seems like an easier step forward, because maybe your sibling or your child's alone. You need another one to come along. It's less of a jump, so why not start from there?
Okay, I think one of the big tasks we have at hand is actually to start moving away from the word incentive. It's something that's been buried deep in our psyche for many years. But honestly, families are not coin machines. It's not where you slot in, a coin or a cost, and then out pops baby. It doesn't work like that, because cost is not the only factor that people take into consideration. So I think you will find that in all of the communications and the speeches, we are now talking a lot more about support, because that is what it really is. Support to buy your house, support to for the costs, support at the workplace, and that includes your colleague covering for you when you're away. Flexible work arrangements, which requires HR support. And when you have an environment or an ecosystem that is generally supportive, then I think it will encourage Singaporeans to have children, whether it be 1 or 2 or 3, because between 2 and 3, there are other considerations you have to take into account as well, right? That's why our tagline is the Singapore Made for Families, because we really want a whole of society that's supportive of families as a whole.
All right, thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. We have Pigeonhole for those of you on site. Send them in there, or if you're on social media watching us now, place a comment and we will look at them and see if we can weave them into the conversation. Now, moving on to building a sustainable Singapore. Budget 2025 is themed Onward Together for a Better Tomorrow. Or in some ways, we could say a greener tomorrow. To that end, we have initiatives like the Future Energy Fund, and the Coastal and Flood Protection Fund was topped up with $5 billion this year. We are also encouraging cleaner energy adoption through measures like the additional flat component of the road tax for electric heavy goods vehicles and buses. So there is a lot going on. Minister, as a country, for both corporates and individuals, are we progressing well enough so far when it comes to taking sustainability seriously in Singapore?
Well, we take sustainability very seriously because of all the countries in the world. Singapore is one of those at the largest risk. We are such a tiny, small little island. And can you imagine if once the glaciers start melting, and one of the world's largest glaciers recently just came aground, right? And it's going to start melting away. The sea levels are going to rise. And then before you know it, can you just imagine if we had an extra meter of water here, or 2 meters, in fact, projected to go up to 4 meters. So in Singapore, we take climate change very, very seriously. That's number one. But number two, also because of our size, think of our resources. We don't have unlimited funds, unlimited resources. So what we have to do is we have to plan ahead. We have to plan in a systematic fashion. And you see it in this year's budget, because you can't wait till the time when we need to put in place measures and suddenly look around for the money. So what we do is we set aside various funds. We've got the Future Energy Fund so that we can start looking at renewable energy, clean energy alternatives. Then we have got the coastal resilience or fund for coastal resilience. And coastal resilience is really exciting because PM talked about Long Island, right? I'm not sure whether people fully hoisted it in. Long Island will be across off the beach of the East Coast. But it's a classic example of what Singapore is doing with limited resources. We're going to reclaim the land. When we reclaim the land, we're not just reclaiming land, we're creating space. And the way it's going to be built is such that you will have a reservoir in the middle. So we expand our space. We use that expanded space to create a reservoir, which is sustainability for water. That space will be used for housing, public, private. It will be used for lifestyle, for recreation. PM also talked about Long Island as a start, but we've got the Greater Southern Waterfront. We're going to do stuff in the north. So step by step, you're going to see that we're going to build an entire ring around the current island where you raise the level and you use that as coastal protection. So that's what we're doing, projecting ahead, planning ahead, and saving ahead in order to be able to do this.
Yeah, Yuit, I'm wondering how have attitudes been evolving over the years? Because I was looking at a recent study, CFOs, their priorities when it comes to ESG, that is starting to drift lower. So when you look at how it's being embraced by the business community, what is the attitude these days? And do you think carrots or sticks work better right now?
If you I think there was just a report released yesterday that in the SGS listed companies, I think only 36% are fully compliant when it comes to indexes. I think that businesses are still ramping up their pace of adoption, and then we have different businesses at different stages. So the first adopters will be those that are in scope 1 that's directly impacted, and then we have scope 2 and 3. And in most cases, if we are talking about the small and medium enterprises, that's the area that we're familiar with, most of us do not have a direct impact, right, as of now. But many of the businesses are very interested to know how they can better prepare themselves when the day comes that they've got to be compliant from the compliance perspective. But interestingly, they're also looking at how they can create businesses and how they can be environmentally sustainable or conforming to ESG while at the same time being profitable. And that's a very interesting topic that we had a lot of interest in when we ran a few of our panels. So I think overall the businesses are still trying to find the best balance between being a good corporate citizen, ESG, while at the same time being profitable and being sustainable from a financial perspective. And on the association side, what we're trying to continue to do is to help them take that baby step. If you are a company that are not directly impacted, what are the basic things that you should be measuring yourself against so that you can be more ready when the policies come down and it starts impacting you?
We're all about striking that balance. Now, Tricia, you wear many hats. You're also executive member of the Climate Action Singapore Alliance, where you volunteer to raise climate awareness. Where are the biggest gaps for you right now?
So Climate Action Singapore Alliance, or CASA, is a small group of us. We consist of non-profits, academics, industry and government coming together to raise climate awareness in Singapore. For LinkedIn, one of our major contributions is to help workers who are looking to transition to green jobs and support some of those types of activities. I guess we are always thinking about green jobs as a very small subset of jobs, right? Like solar engineer, wind turbine technician, sustainability consultant. But what we hope to do through LinkedIn's insights and through our platform is to shift that to thinking about green skills as skills that we need for all our jobs, just like we thought about digital and tech skills for every job that we do. In order for us to meet our climate targets, in order for us to move collectively as a country, to meet all these goals that we've got, every job has to have some green skills. So in Singapore, we note that 1 in 10 jobs are considered green jobs, but if I widen the aperture to green skills in jobs, I imagine there'll be a lot more.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting take on sustainability. But another take on sustainability is a different definition. Xander, you are looking at it from a different lens. Social sustainability.
I would say there are many different pillars or areas of sustainability or goals. But the main and core definition of sustainability is actually to meet the needs of current and future generations. So by definition, sustainability already built in this thing about how we raise our next generation or steward our resources for the next and future generations. In that, certainly, parenting the children and also as a village, how we do so together. And just to share a quote first, C.S. Lewis mentioned that children are not a distraction from more important work. They are the most important work. So many companies will have to increasingly report on sustainability. So those who are familiar with Global Reporting Initiative, there's one very key guideline there that talks about parental leave. That mentions for companies to consider whether measuring or reporting how long your employee stays in the company 12 months after they come back from parental leave. To me, it's a very objective measure about how family-friendly or supportive a company is. For us to truly be a nation made for families, we really need workplaces and fellow colleagues, co-workers, to really encourage one another and really see one another as part of the village. As a new child is born, you are part of that village.
Yeah, so I think a lot of interesting ideas, and I like that gauge of how companies are more business friendly. So maybe that could be something to be looked at. In the meantime, let's look at some of the questions coming in from the crowd, and it is quite timely, this one, because of the EBRC report that just came out. So this one goes, beyond budget 2025, this year is an important one with election bells ringing following the latest EBRC changes. So I think this is for you, Mr. Indranee. How will you be working closely with your residents to figure future areas of needs and aspirations that they hope the government can help with?
Okay, well, a couple of years ago we started Forward SG. And Forward SG was really about thinking ahead to what do we want Singapore to be like? What are the changes? What are the shifts that we need to make? And we've already started on that work at a national level. So I would imagine that every MP and everybody who would be stepping up and standing as a candidate for election needs to understand their constituencies, understand their needs and what their hopes and their aspirations are, and work towards that at a local level, even as we work towards it at a national level.
Yeah, so lots of things to look at. Looking ahead, we've got SG60 this year, and as we celebrate SG60, which perhaps is a timely milestone for all of us to reflect, last June we had PM Lawrence Wong outlining how he and his team of ministers hope to refresh the Singapore dream, move away from the past definitions of success. And I think this is where I can get everyone on the panel to talk about what that Singapore dream looks like to you. And I'm going to start first with Xander. Now, what does your Singapore dream look like?
I think I've mentioned my dream multiple times on this panel, where we can, all of us, see one another in our family roles as fathers, mothers, sons or daughters. Those are our core, fundamental, irreplaceable roles. How do we really support one another in those roles? If we are able to achieve that, there will be so much more joy, hope, and honestly love too in our society, which everyone wants and desires.
All right, Tricia, so Singapore dream, what does it look like?
How do I follow from Xander? It's such a beautiful dream. But I just reflecting, last week I was involved in some International Women's Day activities, and one quote that kept coming up that I think is very relevant here is, the future is not one we inherit, it's one we create. And I really like that, in that we can all continue to create that together. So I guess for me, my Singapore dream is one where we continue to invest in skilling, the need for continual reskilling, upskilling. That really builds resilience in our workforce. And just every day at LinkedIn, we see the data, we see how skills are changing so rapidly, and it's important to build that agility in our workforce. So for LinkedIn, we do many things. We've got free online courses that are made available. We have partnerships with NTUC Learning Hub, for example, where one can use SkillsFuture credit to upskill. And there are many ways in which we continue to upskill and reskill our workforce.
Right, Yuit, I was waiting for this because you were here when I asked this question, what's your Singapore dream? And part of your Singapore dream has come true. You were saying you're going to have a 6th kid. Well done.
Yeah, we're still considering whether to expand on that.
7.
But I think 6 is quite enough for now. Well, the interesting thing, our association, of small and medium enterprises has this purpose that we crafted about 2 years ago, which is securing the future of Singapore by empowering small and medium enterprises in Singapore to grow to their best ability. And we think that, my own dream is a very strong and vibrant economy with a good flow of micro businesses growing to small businesses, business growing, small one growing to medium, medium growing to large, and large one becoming multinationals. And I think with that, and then together with the private partnership with families, with the community, all of that, I think we create a very strong Singapore that gears itself up for that future that me and Indranee was painting about, that allows Singapore to really thrive in that future.
All right, Shawn, coming to you. What's one thing you hope Singaporeans can work towards together to build that new Singapore dream that we want to define?
You know what's interesting that here in Asia Square, just 60 years ago, there was nothing here. This was part of the Bayfront. And it was in 1969 when the ambitions and aspirations back then have decided little money and resources that we had to put into long-term capability development, into long-term planning, to reclaim and build a future that is prosperous, stable, and relevant to the world. And 60 years on, we're here. We're here because we must have ambition for the future. We must be courageous and industrious. But at the same time, we must be inclusive in the way we bring forward our goals and what we want to aspire for this country. Because only when we progress together, as in how we have done and started our conversation of Ford SG in April 2023, can we build a Singapore that's truly inclusive going forward. A place that is compassionate, a place where everyone is unique on their own, but being able to then amplify their gift to bring collective and diverse capability for a vibrant city to come to bear. And most of all, we must be united. Earlier this year, in January, at the Singapore Calligraphy Society, every year there was this Hui Chun event. And every year someone will be invited to do a freestyle calligraphy to write a particular couplet. This year I had the honor to be invited. And it took me several months to think of how succinctly could we deliver a message of importance that is relevant to all of us for the long term. And I thought about it for many months, and it came down to 5 words. And the 5 Chinese words that I wrote was 家和万事兴. 家和万事兴. Because with an inclusive, compassionate society that's united and cohesive, is the basis and foundation that enables us to build anything that's possible. That will bring abundance, that will bring wisdom, that will bring collective will, ambition, aspirations to bring everyone together. And once we're able to do that, Singapore will be unstoppable.
As Shawn has outlined, we've come a long way, we've built on a lot, and we have a lot of aspirations going forward, Minister. Where do you see Singapore, hope to see Singapore going forward?
Well, what I would hope for Singapore is to have a Singapore where Singaporeans feel safe, happy, and fulfilled. And that sounds really simple, right? But it is an enormously complex undertaking. How are we to feel safe? One, that is the job of Ministry of Home Affairs and of MINDEF. And they've been working very hard about it. We've just approved their budget in the Committee of Supply. But the busiest person working in this current geopolitical situation is Minister Vivian. Because safety includes our ability to navigate in a world where the geopolitics has become increasingly topsy-turvy, and where norms are being turned on the head, and where we are seeing things which are unprecedented. So steering Singapore, keeping it safe on the diplomatic front is going to be another very important piece of work. Then happy. Happiness can take many forms, but mostly it's in the form of individuals feeling that they are fulfilled, achieving personal growth. That journey starts with MOE. It starts in the preschools, it flows through to the primary, secondary schools, and Min Chan has talked more and more about how we should be moving beyond academics and how education is going to be more customized to the individual student, and how we're really, or in PM's words, help individuals to become the best version of themselves, and to flow that through to when they're in the workplace. And that's what Skills Future Level Up and all the other Skills Future programs are about, to be able to enable a growth mindset. And then from there, happiness and fulfillment is going to take the form of, can they have their home? Will they be able to set up their families? And then after a while, when they reach a certain age, in their 40s and 50s, they're going to need to reskill and pivot and take advantage of new opportunities. As Trisha talked about, there will be jobs that will come into existence which are not in existence today, and how do we get our workforce into that? And then finally, aging. So that's Min Ong's job, right? Healthier SG, age well SG, grow well SG. That's really trying to keep everybody healthy and really going beyond treating illness to building wellness. And so those three simple things, keeping Singaporeans, or hoping that Singaporeans will be safe, happy and fulfilled, is going to be the endeavor of an entire nation.
All right, SG60 and beyond. Lots to look forward to and aspire. And with that, we've come to the close of today's session. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their insights, and to everyone here for your thoughtful questions. I'd like to invite everyone to put your hands together to the wonderful panel, and also to you for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you, Ryan. And yes, once again, a round of applause for our great panelists today. Thank you to Minister Indranee Rajah, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office, Second Minister for Finance and National Development, Shawn Huang, Senior Parliamentary Secretary for Education and Finance, Yuit, President of ASME, Trisha Suresh, Head of Public Policy in Southeast Asia for LinkedIn, and Xander Ong, CEO of the Center for Fathering. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights today. And to all of you, of course, here live at Asia Square, for being such a great audience and for your great questions. And to those of you streaming online, thank you so much for joining us today as well. And as always, our conversations continue online and on air. Stay tuned to us on Money FM 89.3, because we have shows throughout the day, the latest updates in the news, financial updates, as well as in-depth interviews. So please also follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, as well as Telegram for more events, giveaways, and discussions like this. I'm Audrey Seek from The Breakfast Show, Money FM 89.3. Thank you so much, and have a great Wednesday ahead. Thank you.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.